Got a friend that I want you to meet. He's actually a 3rd Battalion, 5th Marine. He was there when this explosion went off. Let's give it up for First Sergeant Freddy Torres.
Ladies, good afternoon. Tremendous honor and privilege to stand up here and talk to you a little bit about my experiences when I was 3-5, give you a little bit of encouragement, wisdom, share a little bit of a story with you from that deployment. So Coach talked about it. Actually, I'll start off with Freddy Torres. I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, just south of here. Graduated high school in 2006, and then I joined the Marine Corps shortly right after that. September 11th was really fresh when I graduated high school, when I joined the Marine Corps, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to serve, I wanted to fight for my country, and I did so right out of high school. So that was 2006, 2010. I was on my 3rd deployment with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, with the 3-5, they call it. And October 13th is the day we lost 4 Marines in one day. The story Coach talked about, that big explosion, was on October 13th. I was about 1,000 yards away from that explosion. It completely rocked our patrol base, the area I was living in. Just a couple months later, on December 30th, 2010, another quick story. I'll give you a quick summary of it. There was a patrol of Marines out on a foot dismounted patrol. They were out walking around, 25 Marines, for about 4 or 5 hours in a completely new area. They were talking to the local nationals, gaining atmospheres, gaining intel, and then they were gonna make their way back to the patrol base. On their way back inside, they were about 200 meters away from it. One of the Marines in the back of the patrol stepped on a IED, an improvised explosive device, a roadside bomb. That IED was 25 pounds big. That IED, a 25-pound bomb IED, was set to kill all 25 of those Marines, because that's how big it was. Luckily, thankfully, only about 4 pounds of that IED went off. The Marine that stepped on it on the back of the patrol, his foot shattered, broken foot. They got him out of there, got him to the next echelon of care. He's good. Now, there's still 20 pounds of homemade explosives sitting out there that the Marines have to get rid of. They have to get rid of so the Taliban doesn't pick it up and use it against them. So the squad leader, the sergeant, the one that was in charge at the time, made the decision, instead of taking all 25 Marines out, we're only gonna take out 4. That's what he said. I'll go out, he said, and I'll take 3 other people with me. I'll be the one that puts the demolition down, pulls a 60-second timer on it, walks away, and blows that in place. So they do so. 4 Marines go out there, 3 Marines go around the corner. They hold security, overwatch for that squad leader. As he's laying the demolition down, he's about to pull the string. From the east, about 300 yards, the Taliban had been watching. And they open up with their machine guns from these things called the murder holes. These little holes on the wall where they would just put their barrels down, spray left and right, and hope that they would hit one of the Marines. That was the tactic they used. So as he's getting ready to pull the string, the Taliban opens up on him. The sergeant, the squad leader, looks to the east, puts up his rifle and starts shooting and running in that direction. There was a waist-high wall about 20, 30 meters away that he was gonna take a knee and shoot back at the Taliban. And when he got to that point, he got on his back, he fell on his back, looked down, and realized his uniform was covered in red. He had been shot twice, once on each leg. At this point, he sees from the corner of his left eye one of those Marines that was holding overwatch running to him. He sprints in, takes his scissors out, his medical scissors, and rips his pants off. Blood was gushing out. His femoral artery had been shot. So he puts his finger on the wound, puts his palm on it, applies gauze, puts a tourniquet on, tightens it up, and controls the bleeding temporarily. He gets on the radio and he calls the quick reaction force at the patrol base just 200 meters down, and he said, I need a stretcher out here. My sergeant is dying. He's bleeding out. We need to get him out of here. A couple minutes pass by, and that stretcher, the quick reaction force comes out. They put him on the stretcher. Meanwhile, the Taliban had been engaging, still suppressing them this whole time. They put him on the stretcher. The team leader that provided care to him said, on the count of 3, we're going to pick him up and we're going to get my sergeant out of here. So he counts to 3, and all guns open up on the Taliban. Full firefight back and forth as they're carrying the squad leader the last 200 yards to get him into the truck to get him to the next echelon of care. As he's laying there on that stretcher, He looks up to his left and he looks at the sergeant that's carrying him, and he holds his hand and he says these last words to him. Tell my mom I love her, and tell my boys I'm sorry. Squeezes his hand one more time, and he said, tell my mom I love her, and tell my boys I'm sorry. His hand falls, they get him in the truck, they get him out of Afghanistan, they get him to Germany. That sergeant made it. He started his recovery in San Diego at one of the hospitals out there. Let me tell you the second part of that story and why I share it with you. That first week in the hospital, after all the surgeries, the doctors came to that sergeant, that squad leader, and they said, you're losing your leg next week. It's getting amputated. There's too much nerve damage, too much vascular damage. They're going to chop it off. So the sergeant fought back and he said, give it a couple of weeks. Give it some time before you finalize that decision. Doctors were hesitant about it, but they went with it. They waited a couple of weeks, and that sergeant, little by little, after surgeries, went from a wheelchair to a walker to crutches to slow walking to jogging and fully running, because he knew that in April, just 3.5 months later, the battalion was coming back from that 7-month deployment in Afghanistan, and he wanted to stand there wherever they landed and hug every single one of the squad members that saved his life on December 30th. And it wasn't easy. He fought back. 2 to 3 physical therapies a week turned into 2 to 3 physical therapies a day. 2 to 3 times a week turned into every single day in the gym, grinding, in the pool, recovering, fallbacks, setbacks, challenges, adversity, times he wanted to give up. April 2011, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines landed at March Air Force Base in Riverside, California. That plane landed, that staircase came down, and I stood at the bottom of that staircase and I hugged every single one of my squad members that saved my life just 4 months prior. But let me tell you some of the stuff I already talked about. The challenges that went through my head, the thoughts that went to my head to give up, it's not worth it, lose your leg, lose your career, it's over. This is too hard, you can't do it. People that didn't believe that I could do it. And I share that story with you not to put myself up here. I share that story with you because I went through something very difficult. One of the most difficult and challenging things I've gone through in my life. Maybe you've gone through something, or you're going through something, or you're going to go through something. And it doesn't have to be in the field, what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be pain, injury, a loss. It could be a relationship, your family at home, any situation. You face challenges and adversity and fallbacks, setbacks. I'm telling you, it's all right here, mental, you can do it. The most important part of that whole story, yes, I've been a Marine for 18 years, but that doesn't define me. What defines me is 2 years ago, God brought me to my knees and he said, it's time to let go of the shame, of the guilt, because I felt shameful that I got injured. I felt guilt that I made the decision to go out there and place that explosive on the ground. And I had to let it go, and I had to live with that for 10 plus years. 2 years ago, I started sharing this story in the manner of what it identifies me now, a child of God. A manner now to where I get to minister to young adults every single week. I get to minister to my youth group at my church every single week. I get to minister in a men's Bible study every single week, and I get to share not just that experience, that struggle that I went through, that challenge, but also my childhood experience. A young Hispanic that grew up in Tucson, Arizona with a mother that raised 5 on her own, 2 to 3 jobs, and not having a father most of his life. Those are the stories, those are the struggles, those are the challenges, those are the blessings that I now bring to my youth, to my young adults, and to my men's ministry, and I'm grateful for that. So you're going to walk out here, and you're going to see these 25 banners that you're going to walk through in the tunnel. And here I was, I could have potentially been one of those faces, because we lost 25 Marines from October 7th, 2010 to January 20th, 2011. 25 of my Marines did not make it back. And I was very close to being one of those. But God kept me around for a reason, and the most important thing is now that I'm a child of God, and I get to disciple and spread his word. So best of luck out there tonight. Best of luck the rest of the season. Thank you for what you do, coaches. Thank you. God bless every single one of you.
First Sergeant Freddy Torres. All right.